Now, will you look into the recommendations in the National Confab report?
Well, frankly, I haven't studied it. I have a problem with that conference. My problem is this, if you could recall. At the time, the government said it voted 7 billion naira for that conference. ASUU was on strike. And teachers on the tertiary institutions, polytechnics, were on strike. These strikes were at least for a whole academic year. I think a serious government, if they have 7 billion naira to throw about, will go and negotiate with ASUU, and then the teachers organization or teachers unions of the tertiary institutions from polytechnics downwards, so that our children should remain in school. Even complement equipment, and other social facilities, for educational institutions. I was so much personally against that thing because the National Assembly is there. I believe the executive ought to have sent a memo to the National Assembly if they want a constitutional amendment. This is in line with the Constitution of 1999 as amended. Why go and take 7 billion that we could not afford when our children are on the streets? I think this government has capacity for wrong priorities that are hurting us as a nation.
All right, hi guys. Okay, today being the 26th of July 2020, the Labour Congress NLC actually did a peaceful protest against the ongoing ASUU strike. All right, so that was commendable. That was awesome, wonderful. Okay, I think these video clips are some of the places that the protests were carried out.
Let's talk about the lingering ASUU strike. Some primary school pupils in Osun State have appealed to the federal government to find lasting solutions to the grievances of the Academic Staff Union of Universities to end the ongoing strike.
Here in Ile Ife, these primary school pupils converged on the Obafemi Awolowo University main campus gate to call on the federal government to put an end to the strike. Armed with placards with various inscriptions, their action caught attention of passers-by, which led to traffic gridlock at the institution's gate.
We need to be educated. I want to go to a university in Nigeria. I don't want to have to go abroad.
Testing for the ASUU strike to end and soon, because more people are not getting their salary, and that is a big problem.
We are not in any way causing chaos. This is our state. We have no other state than Kaduna State.
Alright, hi guys. Okay, today being the 26th of July 2020, the Labour Congress NLC actually did a peaceful protest against the ongoing ASUU strike. All right, so that was commendable. That was awesome, wonderful. Okay, I think these video clips are some of the places that the protests were carried out. All right. Okay, now I'm going to sound a bit skeptical. I might sound very unfriendly to all Nigerian students on one condition for this reason. Now, never you think that Buhari will ever pay the so-called education reform funds. It's not possible. If the calling off of the strike is dependent on Buhari paying that education reform funds, then the strike will never be called off because Buhari will never pay that money. The government of Buhari will never settle ASUU on that note. Why? Because a guy cannot guy a guy. Let me be very frank about this. Now, the government of Buhari knows very well that if this money is given to ASUU, that it will never be used to reform education in Nigeria. That is plump and clear. That is the very point of it, and that is true. That if the education reform forms is given to the ASUU body, that there will be a lot of embezzlement too. There will be a lot of embezzlement. Now, if you think I'm lying, walk around your school. If you are a university student, walk around your school and you actually see some structures that have been in your school even before you got admission. Now, you go around, all of a sudden you see that same old structure is repainted and the year is updated. For instance, let's say rehabilitation or whatsoever, let's say debt fund 2022, and you be like, I've been seeing this building here. In fact, it was even here before I got admitted. All of a sudden the building is all over repainted again, and then a new year of project is written upon it. Now what they will do is that they'll probably snap it and submit to the appropriate unit and say that a particular project has newly been done. Now the funds for that project is stolen, is embezzled by VCs and debt fund chairman. So the same thing goes to the so-called ASUU. If the money is given to them, never you think as a Nigerian citizen, never you think that money will be used even to 60% to reform education in Nigeria. That is a big lie. To never be used. Don't be deceived. These guys know these guys. As in, a scammer cannot scam a scammer. A scammer cannot turn a scammer to a scammy. A guy cannot guy a guy. So that is the point. That is why the government of Buhari will never settle that money. If it was so, Buhari probably carried it in mind, but somebody must have hinted this to him. Because look at this video where Buhari was, raining blame on the government of Jonathan, telling Jonathan that his government is a government of misplaced priority, as long as they were not paying attention to ASUU Strike that were, held during Jonathan's tenure. Okay, watch the video.
My problem is this, if you could recall, at the time the government said it voted 7 billion naira for that conference, ASUU was on strike. And teachers on the tertiary institutions, polytechnics, were on strike. These strikes were at least for a whole academic year. I think a serious government, if they have 7 billion naira to throw about, will go and negotiate with ASUU, and then the teachers organization or teachers unions of the tertiary institutions from polytechnics downwards, so that our children should remain in school. Even complement equipment, and other social facilities, for educational institutions. I was so much personally against that thing. Because why go and take 7 billion that we could not afford when our children are on the streets? I think this government has capacity for wrong priorities.
So what you see there is that Buhari came up and spoke vehemently against Jonathan and called him a government with misplaced priority, that they should have gone with a 7 billion naira that was budgeted for confab. It should have been used to settle or go into discussion with ASUU and make sure students return back. Okay, why has Buhari not done that? Or are you going to tell me that there have not been 7 billion in Buhari's tenure? Two of us are witness of a lot of embezzlements that has happened during Buhari. One of them is Ahmed Idris, the Accountant General of the Federation, stealing over 80 billion naira, and we haven't seen that money. Also, a lot of other embezzlement, a lot of Abacha looted from being recovered, and yet those money has not been used to settle ASUU. So it's a pure lie why this ASUU sub has not been resolved. But I don't want to do it. Ndigi doesn't want to do it. The Minister of Education doesn't want to do it. They don't want to resolve these issues. So I think that now should take over and make sure that they do what? They take to the streets close down the National Assembly and make sure that that we get back to school, because this is a scam. It is taking so much and we cannot bear it any longer.